afternoon. It's McCollum on business. Getting the show underway at 11 o'clock here on this Wednesday, of course. Unfortunately, I had a conference call this morning I had to take pre-planned here, and only time it could be done. So that means the show is at noontime, lunchtime here, basically 11 a.m. here at Robat TV. Appreciate you joining me for the live show or catching us on demand. We do return back to 7 a.m. here on Thursday, of course. So look forward to that. But for now, I'm Stephen McCollum. For the next 30 minutes, I'll get you updated on what's happening around the markets here in the midday stock market with the Market Watch. Stocks we're paying attention to, local and national stories that you need to know as the day goes on. And folks, there's some developments over there in the Middle East. Always seems like there is, right? So let's get into it with that midday Market Watch. The U.S. has officially extended the Iran ceasefire. If you missed that news yesterday, that has happened. Some things have happened here as the day has gone on. The Strait of Hormuz does remain, we're going to say closed here, even though some ships are getting in and out of it. Iran has seized a couple ships after the ceasefire extension. So there's still some questions on that here as the day goes on, the Strait of Hormuz. But overall, the market is happy with the announcement. The ceasefire is continuing, at least for now. Dow Jones is up that 113 points to 49,402. S&P 500 is up 37 points here today, 71.23 for the S&P 500. The Nasdaq's up 344 points, 24,604 for the Nasdaq. And then the Russell 2K, basically even here, just on the negative side at this second. 1.7 points down right now, 2776 for the Russell 2K. And then you got Bitcoin. Well, look at this. Still continuing its upward trend here this week. 75,000 at the end of last week. Sunk about 4% over the weekend, back to 75,000 on Monday. Well, here today, continuing that uphill trend here, 78,968 for Bitcoin here on this Wednesday as well. So NASDAQ hits the new high today also with their numbers. All that with that ceasefire being extended, even though there's still some question marks specifically around the Strait of Hormuz here as this day goes on. We also have some other developments there. Just really quick on Spirit Airlines that came out just about as we're going to airtime. Reportedly, now Spirit Airlines could be liquidated any day. We gave you that story last week. Well, now the Trump administration is in advanced talks for Spirit Airlines rescue package. That's according to sources out there. So I wanted to just make you aware of that here as the day goes on. Is not anything we have in our stories, as that's just breaking here. Here in this midday here in Phoenix where we record this show. Stocks we are paying attention to right now. Let's stay with that airline theme, or at least the airplanes. Let's look at Boeing here. And Boeing is up 5.32% here today. They reported better than expected losses in the first quarter. They lost 20 cents per share. They delivered $22.22 billion in revenue as well. The estimate was a loss of 80 cents. They only lost 20 cents per share. Big numbers here for Boeing for their expectations. The expectation was only $21.78 billion in revenue. They came in, of course, at that $22.22 billion. So Boeing, big numbers here for Boeing. And Boeing CEO with their conference call as well said all systems are go was his phrase that he used in terms of producing or increasing the 737 production. So that was also announced on the conference call regarding the way better than expected losses for Boeing here in the first quarter. They're up 5.40% here today. And we are officially, there's some question marks on the turnaround. This new CEO last year pointed the company in the right direction, and they're moving in the right direction. Boeing has been since here over the last year or so. AST Space Mobile is the next one we're going to talk about, up 5.56% for them as well. Well, they announced the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, has approved its plan to deliver direct-to-device cellular broadband. It's going to permit the company to operate up to 248 satellites in low Earth orbit. Big news for AST Space Mobile, up 5.49% based off of that FCC approval for this company. And then there's a company called Axe Compute out there. Yeah, 87.50%. They were at 90%, just a little bit out there as well. Well, what happened is they secured a $260 million contract to develop NVIDIA graphics processing units. And they're way up today based off of that. That's what's kind of funny about it, right? 90% up roughly, and the stock's still only at $9.16. It does make me giggle when that stuff happens, to be honest with you, out there. But huge securing of a contract there, $260 million for this company, Axe Compute Inc. out there. Later on, when we come back, we'll talk some Best Buy making some moves on their C-suite level. Adobe also in the news as well. Capital One Financial. So we'll look at them. Also, when we come back and look at the stocks here on this midday, and let's get you updated around the business world of things. As like I said, the ceasefire, market's happy with that today, even though the Strait of Hormuz still has some question marks happening with the Iran reportedly seizing a couple ships in that strait. Well, back home here, though, shoppers, well, you accelerated your spending in March over the February month. Well, here's where the problem. You spend most of that acceleration and spending, yeah, at the gas pump. No place else. A spike in gas prices, as you know, right? The Iran war for the last 8 weeks, we've been dealing with that. Well, that spike in those gas prices resulted in a 1.7% gain in retail sales in March. That was after that revised 0.7% increase in February. We get all this from the Commerce Department. The report came out this morning. The report does mark the first read on spending to capture the effects of that Iran war. All the other ones were giving us numbers either before the war started or as it was happening or starting. This is the first one that covers kind of the entirety of it. Now, gas led the charge here with that big spending increase. But so if you want to exclude the gas prices, well, it was only 0.6% spending increase by us out there. This helped in part by government tax refunds. And obviously, they don't have the big storms that you had in the East, for instance, in January and February. How big was gas stations and gas spending? Well, businesses at the gas stations rose 15.5%. Yeah, that's a huge number. The sales at department stores, they rose 4.2%. Sales at furniture stores were up 2.2%, excuse me. Online retailers, well, a 1% increase for them as well. So this is just a snapshot here from the Commerce Department, and it only offers a partial look at consumer spending, well, partly because it doesn't include things like travel, hotel stays, and that stuff. There is a services category in this group. It's the only one in this specific report. That's restaurants. It had registered an increase of 0.1% for restaurants as well. So the retail spending up, well, that's because of the gas prices out there, is why that is up out there. So you got to dig a little bit deeper into that opposed from the headlines out there if you want to know the real truth on where the increased spending is out there. And it's not because we're buying more gas, because we have to buy more expensive gas out there as well. Hey, Lending Tree gave us some bad news today. Whether you have a child or several of them, or you're young and you're thinking about having children, don't let this perturb you because you can never afford one. I'll just tell you that right up front. But Lending Tree analyzed the cost of raising a child over 18 years. Well, they found the new national average is now $303,418 for raising a child up to 18 years old. That is up 1.9% from the company's report from last year, 2025's report. Lending Tree looked at several child-specific expenses. So that includes daycare, regular household expenses that, having a child can affect. That does include rent because you need a bigger place with more people and, electricity bills when they leave the back door open with the AC blaring and they're running back and forth, as a parent. Lending Tree said it mostly pulled data from 2024 because that was when the most of the data was available. Some of the categories, like national food, daycare data, can be more recent, though, but most of the numbers are from 2024. So the bare bones cost of raising a child in this 2026 report. Well, here's the breakdown for you here. And also, they also put together, Lending Tree did, the percentage change from the 2025 report as well. It's not going to be a shock to you here that rent is the biggest change. Rent right now, $1,680 in the 2026 report on average. That's a 48.9% increase, almost a 50% increase just in rent. Food, well, it's only a point 0.2 increase. I'm sorry, point 0.2 decrease over last year. 4208 for food, $4,208. Infant care, well, basically daycare here is what we'll talk about. $17,264 is what you spend in a year. 3.2 decrease for that as well. Girls apparel, $313. That's a 26.7% increase. Transportation costs is a 0.9% increase at $4,422. Insurance premiums, I'm surprised this is so low, to be honest with you, but it's at $3,638, only a 0.8% increase for the insurance premiums. The value of the federal tax credit, well, a 10% increase in that value is at $2,200 now. Annual cost for the first 5 years of raising a child, $29,325 at that point. That's a 0.3% decrease here in 2026. Then, if you want to look at the annual cost for the next 13 years after that first amount of years, 12,061 is what you're looking at for that. $12,061. That's a 4.1% increase. Lending Tree gives us all of this. So the annual cost over 18 years, 16,857. It's a 1.9% increase in where we get that. That's per year, by the way, for 18 years. So that total cost is where you get that $303,418 for that 18-year total amount. The overall 18-year cost for raising children, well, it's risen 27.8% between the 2023 and 2026 reports. So the 2023 report assessed data from 2021 mostly. This year's report, 2026, as I said, does the 2024 data mostly there as well. So 27.8% increase over the last 3 years. Yeah. So the annual cost for the first 5 years, well, it increased by 35.3%. So just having an infant through 5 years has increased 35.3% at that level. How does that relate to Phoenix here? Basically, Arizona here, for all of us here in Arizona. Well, the 10 most expensive states to raise a child to the age of 18, which is that total cost number. Well, Hawaii's number one, shouldn't shock you, 412,661. Alaska's second, shouldn't shock you, $365,047 there. Maryland came in at 326,360. Then California, 312,300 is what they're looking at. Then you got New Jersey, 312,295. Kansas here at the sixth spot, 303,250. Kansas, folks. Washington, 297,341's in the seventh spot. And then we come in at Arizona, 294,982. We're in that eighth spot there for Arizona here on this list. After us is Nebraska, barely behind us. We're talking $60 behind us here, 294,926. And then Montana comes in at number 10, 293,926 for Montana as well. So there we are. We're ranked 8th on this list as well. So there you go, folks. It's expensive to raise a kid, but those of us with them know the expenses that you have to incur as well. So there you go. Lending Tree giving us a new update here as well. And here's a kind of an interesting, for those of you that follow Supreme Court cases out there. Yeah. So this is an interesting case going on right now. And yesterday, basically, the FCC was in front of the Supreme Court. They gave some concessions up about their limits that they can portray on people. The Supreme Court, though, in the arguments, they appear to be open to backing the FCC's basically set up for imposing their massive fines that they put out there. The Supreme Court seemed, the questioning showed that most of them were open to backing them on their imposing their massive fines in their oral arguments yesterday. The justices are reviewing more than $100 million in combined penalties against Verizon and AT&T. This is over their customers' location data. The companies say the process violated their Seventh Amendment jury trial right. Basically, the way the process works, the FCC finds something, they send it to you to correct it. If you don't, then they impose the fines, and then they basically say we have to sue you if you don't pay the fines moving forward, right? Sue the companies moving forward. And AT&T and Verizon are saying that violates our jury trial right to prove that we did something wrong. The FCC, though, stressed in the open or oral, and this kind of their concessions here in their oral arguments, they stress that it's, they stressed, by the way, I listened to some of this yesterday, their forfeiture orders aren't binding. You can kind of just ignore them until you get sued, according to the FCC. If a company doesn't want to pay, well, they can ultimately still go to a judge and jury by forcing the agency to file a collection lawsuit. And that's kind of where they opened it up, right? From the Supreme Court side of things, where they were interested in that. The FCC is doing their process, and you don't have to pay it if you don't want to. You can still go to that trial process coming up. So it's going to be interesting to see on this government outreach, I should say, or some will say overreach, right? But the way the government operates against these companies and their fines, something to pay attention to there in the Supreme Court side of how they're going to rule on this. Excuse me, there. I apologize for the clearing my throat there in the microphone. Hey, Amazon, if you don't know, they own a primary care arm. It's called Amazon One Medical. You can go to your doctor and things like that. Well, they're launching a GLP-1 management program. It's going to integrate obesity treatment into routine care. The offering combines virtual and in-person visits, prescription management, and even pharmacy fulfillment. All, by the way, within the Amazon arm specifically, which is positioning weight management as a long term chronic condition rather than just a one off prescription that most people treat it as of now. So, through Amazon Pharmacy, patients will be able to access medications. That is the Wegovy, not just the pill, but also the shot. Insured pricing for the Wegovy side will start as low as $25 per month. For cash paying patients, that's if you have insurance. For cash paying patients, oral drugs will start at $149 per month for that as well. The injectable treatments, which, like I said, the Wegovy shots, Eli Lilly Zepbound, also is the shot form. They begin at $299 per month when paid without insurance, according to Amazon. How do those prices work out? Well, they're basically roughly in line with much of the current market and where you can find them out there. So, Amazon's medical arm treating the GLP-1 drugs as a chronic health problem as opposed to, not addressing it and treating it as a one-off thing moving forward. That's what I got out of that story most importantly. And I think you'll see more and more people start treating it as a chronic problem, just like you do a cough or something when you go into your doctor's office. So we're starting to see that tick over here just a little bit as well. And we've done a lot of talking about Netflix, right? Their CEO, their founder, I should say, leaving the board here coming up when his election, and not going to run again for his election on the board. They lost the Warner Brothers Discovery bid as well. They had very disappointing reporting the other day or last week in terms of that. Disappointed the market as well. Interesting story here on where Netflix is kind of going towards, and we get it from a JP Morgan analyst. His name's Doug Amuth. He said in a note on earlier today that he expects Netflix to launch a quote vertical video feed unquote on mobile later this month. Yeah. Think about your meta reels right on Facebook. Think about your TikTok feeds. He's expecting Netflix to jump into this ring as well. Anmuth, the analyst there, Anmuth thinks the vertical video platform will touch a few different components. It's likely to include clips from original film and TV series from Netflix, as well as newer Netflix content verticals, So video podcasts could be involved in that. This analyst also expects Netflix to integrate select creator content. Things like their big creators, like Mark Roper, for instance. So they're going to basically get involved with YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, and compete with that on the mobile side, according to this analyst out there. The reason why I brought this up is Netflix. They're trying to find ways to keep growing. I think they had a lot of hope on that Warner Brothers Discovery bid to help their catalog out, to more people can sign up to watch that Warner Brothers Discovery catalog and things. And that with that by the wayside, they're scrambling to find other ways to move into things and stay as that number one streamer. And one analyst thinks they're moving that route. And I don't know. Reels are both positive and negative in my eyes. Yeah. And so we'll see what Netflix does with that moving forward. And the tipping culture, I think a lot of people agree that tipping culture has just gotten out of hand. It's ridiculous what you're being asked to tip for. And I don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem going, no tip. I did all the work. No, thank you. I'll stare into their eyes when I do it if I need to, right? Well, Papa John's now is putting a message out there on their pizza boxes. That message is encouraging you as a customer to tip their delivery drivers. And folks, people are enraged about this. All across the social media, enraged. And of course, this is kind of leading in kind of a microcosm of the frustration of the tipping culture that is out there and how people are getting upset with it. For instance, a TikTok user posted a video last week showing a box from Papa John's. And on the box, it says printed, delivery fee is not a tip. Please reward your driver with outstanding service. Before I read any more of this story to you guys here, the bigger the delivery fee, the less of the tip the driver gets. That's my opinion on it. Yeah. Why am I paying a delivery fee? Doesn't cost the company anything to hand it to somebody. I don't get it. Especially now that a lot of places are using DoorDash for their deliveries, right? But a message obviously has people fuming on the boxes. So now all over social media, there's a big debate. But here's the big question that you get into. What's the purpose of delivery fees? And should corporations put the responsibility for paying their workers livable wages on the consumers on the tip side? Papa John's is a billion-dollar company. And they're saying, we're taking your delivery fee and you need to pay our guys a livable wage. That's what they're doing. I have a fundamental problem with that. I know a lot of people do out there as well. Users labeled the message tone deaf. They're arguing that Papa John's, as I said, is shifting the financial responsibility to the compensation to the consumer. Yeah, Papa John's, if they get record numbers, are we going to see that back? No. A WallerHub survey released in March found that nearly 9 in 10 Americans believe the country's tipping culture is, quote, out of control. Last time I checked, 9 out of 10 is pretty much everybody. Similarly, the recent Pop Menu report, it found that 77% of consumers agree the practice of tipping has gone too far. 2/3 of respondents admitted they only tip out of guilt. That's just why even it just makes you not want to buy your stuff, man, if you're going to guilt me into tipping. I tip generously. I have no problem tipping. But I hate it when you pay a $5.99 delivery fee, and then all this other fees on top of it to get something delivered. And then they're like, don't forget to tip your guy because we're paying him minimum wage. Well, we make billions and fortunes. It bothers me. Take care of your employees, would you? That'd be a nice thing for you to do as a company. That's my feelings on it. What are yours? Hit me up, of course. SMAC 500 on X. Text in 623-252-6670 on the text line as well, whenever you're catching us here at McCollum on Business. And, of course, we're here at 11 o'clock here today due to my other appointment this morning at 7. So glad you're here joining us, whether it's live or catching us on demand. When we come back, well, we'll get into some local stories. K-Jazz gives us an interesting story here we're going to talk about when we come back as well on houses moving forward. We're going to look at some more stocks out there, of course, and what is happening in the market. Best Buy, Adobe, Capital One Financial, the specific stocks. How's the market doing here? About 30 minutes later here into the show, it's still up here based off of the ceasefire also happening today. Let's get into the local stuff, and here's going to shock you. A food story coming up for you to end up the show. Yes, you like World Cup soccer? You like flavors of food? Got that for you coming up. Come on back, McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business. Of course, today, coming at you at 11 o'clock live. If you're catching us live, thank you very much right now. And of course, we're back tomorrow, 7 a.m., tomorrow and Friday. I just had something I had to take care of this morning, so we had to move the show. But hey, a midday business show from time to time isn't too terrible out there. Of course, the main event is up on demand right now, live 8 to 10 a.m. here at Robat TV. On demand right now on not just Robat TV, but on YouTube page of our production company. TME Media AZ is where you can find us on YouTube. All of our programming's there for you, free. Of course, the podcast for the main event also out there, TME Sports Show. You can find them on X under that, or just search the main event with Steven. It pops up on your favorite podcast systems or on X as well. This show, as soon as we're done, we'll get it up on Robat, of course, also TME Media AZ. All of our programming, including The Real Matrix, is up on Rumble now as well. Rumble.com/user/TME Media is where you can find our programming. There as well, new episodes of The Real Matrix come out on Friday, 10 a.m. on Robat TV. And for those of you that love to watch it at 10 o'clock, we appreciate that. We see those numbers. Then, of course, on Rumble at noon and the free podcast system at noon as well. There, just search The Real Matrix, Angry Patriot on your favorite podcast system. It'll pop right up for you. I've tested them all to make sure they come up. But on Rumble, you got to type in rumble.com/user/TME Media for it all to come up as well. There, of course, later on today, we still have the pit stop coming your way. The pit stop where we look back at racing last week and look ahead to racing this weekend coming up. On demand, Robat TV, of course, the YouTube page, TME Media AZ, and even on Rumble. All of our programming is also on Rumble now. Since we were utilizing that page for The Real Matrix, also, it's there for you. And folks, coming up, it'll be posted by 2 o'clock today is where you can find the pit stop as well. And then tomorrow, normal shows, McCollum on Business, 7 a.m. The Real Matrix live, 8 to 10 a.m. Uncle Lou comes in the 9 o'clock hour to talk UFC and college baseball, NHL hockey going on right now, playoffs he's involved in. Uncle Lou will come in at 9 o'clock. And then tomorrow, got a treat for you. Tomorrow night, 4:30, 4:45, we will go live. The NFL draft starts at 5 p.m. Me, Bruce Cooper, 34-year 12 News sportscaster there. All of his Emmys, they're coming in here as well. He has been at home all week studying up for this draft. He is a draft guru. We're going to analyze the draft as it come out with 17-year NFL veteran Dale Hellestray. even a special guest scheduled to come in and show up as well. He's looking forward to it and everything. Special guest coming in. So tune down the draft. Tune into us here in a Robot TV Live and on YouTube Live. TME Media AZ is where you'll be able to see us tomorrow night. Share us with your friends. Catch our. Everybody else is going to have to wait. You'll have to wait till Friday to get their draft analysis. You'll get ours as the picks happen here as well. So TME Media AZ is where you can find us there tomorrow night for the NFL draft as well. And folks, with all that being said, let's get right back into that market watch. As I said, the ceasefires really boosted the rally here today. The Trump administration in advanced talks for Spirit Airlines rescue package is in the news now as well. Tesla earnings are coming out here shortly, so the market's watching that as well. So all of that, there is news of the Strait of Hormuz having some issues still, but it's not really affecting the market today. Right now, the Dow Jones is up to 96 points. S&P 500 is up 34 points right now. NASDAQ hit new highs today. It's up 326 points right now to 24,584. The Russell 2K, it's basically even, but it is technically down the 2 points right now as well for the Russell 2K. And then you got Bitcoin out there continuing its rally. It's been 75,000 since end of last week. Did dip, like I said, about 4% over the weekend. Came back up to 75,000 all this beginning part of the week in that range. Look at this, folks. Today, 78,955 for Bitcoin. Little bit of a rally for that cryptocurrency here today as well. Stocks we are paying attention to right now. Well, the first one is Best Buy. You know them as the retailer. They're down 4.60% right now. Why are they down? Well, one of the reasons, they announced that their CEO is stepping down. Corey Berry is their CEO. He's stepping down, and a gentleman named Jason Bonfig is going to take over CEO starting October 31st. Bonfig is currently in the company. He's the company's chief customer product and fulfillment officer, taking over October 31st. How would you like that? One, if you're the guy leaving and your stock tanks, feeling pretty good about yourself. You know, you don't want to see a tank, but you're like, oh, they liked me. And if you're the new guy coming in and they announce your name in the stock tanks, not a good start, right? So Best Buy down 4.64% here today with the CEO change coming up for them. And then Adobe's out there. You know them, tech company, software, etc. Well, their board approved a $25 billion stock repurchase program through April 2030. This buyback plan, well, it comes as Adobe stock is down more than 26% year to date. Well, they're up a little bit today, 2.88%. You're not making up that 26% in one day, but they are up 2.88% base today off of that buyback plan that they have announced. And then let's go financial here and look at Capital One Financial. Well, they're down 1.54% right now. They posted first quarter earnings of $4.42 per share. Well, the estimated amount, expected amount was $4.55 per share, so they missed that number. Then their revenue came in at $15.23 billion. Their expectation for revenue was $15.36 billion as well. Capital One missed their financial numbers in this era of higher interest rates, in this era of people, having to use credit cards and leverage some things in order to afford to buy some things out there. Capital One missed their numbers, and that is why they are down 1.59% here today on the market. And now let's get into some local stories here. And this story comes from K-Jazz. I just said this jazz comes from it's an afternoon, right, folks? And strict from K-Jazz here, so we got to give them some due here on this story. And there's an interesting thing happening here. There's a proposal awaiting a vote in the Arizona House, and it barely passed the Senate. What it's going to do, reportedly, is upend decades of municipal design standards builders are required to follow to develop new housing tracts across the state. What they're trying to do is get more affordable housing. But what this proposal is doing is it's the latest effort by builders and housing advocates. And they're trying to address the high housing prices, as I told you, for single family homes. But what they're doing isn't the right way to go. What they're doing is they're trying to block cities and towns from requiring things like garages, paved driveways, backyard patios, or fencing between new homes, or streets, for instance. Yeah, they want to stop that going in. They want you to have to do it after you buy the home. These builders they want to also bar any city or town standards that require specific exterior designs, things like exterior lighting, roofing pitches, floor plans, exterior color requirements. Well, your color requirements doesn't affect your price, to be honest with you. So they also want to the requirements for developers to be gone that would put neighborhood parks or anything like common areas or landscaping. Yeah, they want those gone as well. So that would require a homeowners association and the fees that would get rid of the homeowners association, by the way, and the fees required to do a homeowners association and hold up the green lots and maintain the green lots and things to that effect. Yeah. So what are people saying that without the rules that are currently in place that barely passed the House, by the way, to get rid of this, or passed the Senate, now it's at the House. Well, the proponents argue that without the current rules, home buyers currently locked out of the market with the new home prices. You know how they are. They're over $500,000 now. They're saying that you can see new and cheaper choices out there in terms of housing, but the standard of living is way less, right? Opponents obviously argue cities are best suited to making decisions on zoning standards for new home development and things like neighborhood character and things to that effect in a community. So blocking their longstanding rules for new homes could see poor quality home building that doesn't stand a long time out there. Home builders just want to build cheaper places, folks. And what I mean by cheaper, not on their bottom line, not on the price of the home. They want their building money to be cheaper. Yeah, that's what they want. The builders. They've we talked yesterday about Axon and the kickbacks they gave to them. How much of the home builders out there who are billion-dollar companies, the big ones, how much are they pushing to the government to get this to pass? Also, opponents also note there's nothing in the proposal requiring builders to pass on the savings to buyers, and that's my point. The house is going to cost what the house is going to cost. They want their expenses less, and they want you to pay for those expenses like fences, separately from buying the house. Yeah. So, the billion-dollar entities, the D.R. Hortons, the Pulte's, the KB Homes, they could just pocket the savings they get because they don't have to put garages on anymore or lighting fixtures or build a park in the neighborhood. No, that'll go to you after you buy the property. This is all wrapped up in the Senate Bill 1431. This is this year's iteration that we used to be called Arizona Starters Homes Act. That has failed, by the way, twice in the past two legislative sessions. But this year, there's a lot more support for it as it moves through the process. As I told you, it just passed the Senate narrowly and onto the House now as well. And yeah, that's what's going through there. I'm not for homeowners associations. I understand why they are annoying. Trust me, nobody understands more than me. As somebody that's sort of been on this board for a long time, I get it. But at the same time, you have to have the standards. Cities should be allowed to say what communities will be like in their thing and stuff to that effect. The cities should decide that, not the home builders, is my opinion on this. If cities don't want parks, fine. Cities don't need parks. If cities don't want exterior lighting, fine. If cities don't want driveways paved, fine. Cities should determine that, not the builders who will do it as cheaply as possible and charge you an arm and a leg for it on the other side and leave it to you. Like not putting a fence around your house, that's just what we do here. Other parts of the country, like Kansas City, for instance, you have to put your own fence up. You just get a lot, right, of the house and then nothing there. You have to build your own fence. Cities should be required to make those decisions, not the people building the houses, in my opinion. Now another subject that gets me going here, and Phoenix City Council. Yeah, they're voting today on whether to raise trash collection fees for each year through 2028. The proposal aims to offset a roughly $20 million budget deficit. Current rates for residential trash and recycle bin collections here in Phoenix are $37.32 a month. Like I said, we're talking city of Phoenix here. So if you're outside of city of Phoenix, I can tell you this. Phoenix gets it to pass. Mesa, Chandler, Goodyear, they're all going to get it to pass as well. They're going to push for it. So basically, the council tonight is meeting, and the proposal suggests implementing annual rate increases over the next 3 years until they hit $51.32 a month for trash service. But we have recycle bins where you can only recycle four things. So your Monday bin is complete waste of time unless you cheat and throw everything in, right? It's ridiculous. They're doing less and less. They want more and more money out there. Obviously, city staff, proposing the rate increase because vehicle costs have gone up by 52%. Staff costs, they say, have gone up by 32% since 2020, outpacing the rise of solid waste collection rates, which have gone up by 2% in the same amount of time. If the city says a rate increase is not adopted, well, they say the Public Works Department would have to reduce its services out there, is what they're threatening with. Yeah. You don't put through this big price increase, we're gonna have to cut back our services on our waste side. Alrighty then. Hey, Arizona, we told you this story before. I got some more details for you, but we know Arizona is one of the nation's least affordable states. We told you this story last week as well. Costs have been soaring since the pandemic era there. And this is that big survey out there. This is where Arizona went from ranking 33rd for affordability in 2019. Now we're 45th in ranking here in 2025. This is from that report from the Common Sense Institute. We gave you this story and in the details last week, but we got some Arizona specific pricing here moving forward, thanks to KTAR out there. The cost of shelter and utilities up by 60% in Arizona from 2019 to 2025. So these are the details we didn't have in the survey last week. And that goes to the home affordability issue, obviously, around, and we've got to get the housing trend of high prices, high interest rates down, or at least interest rates down so people can afford houses and move around again. And the way to do it's not in the way we did it in the last story, in my opinion. Arizona households did make 33% more in 2025 than in 2019, but it hasn't been enough to keep pace with the cost of your essential expenses. Arizona household paid $19,300 more for six essential categories: shelter, utilities, groceries, health insurance, car insurance, gas, and even child care are the six category where you paid a lot more for in 2025 than you did in 2019. That's about $4,000 more than the national average amount also in that story. So we got KTR interviewed somebody with that Common Sense Institute. They gave us a little bit more details there about Arizona, and they gave us that story here today as well, folks. And as always here, look, we're getting all riled up with new cost increases here in city of Phoenix. I'll put money on it that passes tonight by the city council, by the way. City councils and governments have never met a tax they don't like, an increase in fees that they don't like. So I expect that to pass tonight. Then the home building bill and things they can cut off of and get you all riled up here. But hey, maybe you can eat some potato chips here to eat off that depression, right? Well, there's some new potato chip flavors coming from Lay's, two stores, all ahead of the World Cup here. And so the Lay's wants to help fans experience the tournament through potato chips inspired by iconic global culinary flavors. Put that out in a news release. And Lay's is owned by PepsiCo as well. Several more than a dozen flavors already out right now. This would be like chili limon as I like to call it. Flamin' Hot flavored potato chips. Those are already out there, and there's, like I said, about a dozen flavors out there. But coming out in early May, some new flavors hitting us. Lay's Argentinian style steak with chimichurri. This flavor is inspired by Argentine cuisine with a rich steak taste blended with cilantro, lemon, basil, bay, thyme, oregano, parsley, and garlic. Yes. And you got the Lay's Brazilian style garlic sauce. That's going to be blended with a buttery garlic and creamy dairy. This flavor brings a lemon tangy kick for a savory finish inspired by Brazil's love for bold, layered tastes. Lay's Wave French onion soup. Yeah, that one I'm not too fond of here, but featuring a rich aged cheddar cheese with fine herbs. This flavor offers a creamy, savory taste paired with a perfectly golden, crispy crunch. Coming your way in early May, folks. 3 new chip ones, all part of it. Limited time, by the way. All of the 12, well, 14 flavors now. Limited time there for Lay's here. All in time for the World Cup, which we are 50 days out from starting here. We learned on the main event earlier today as well. But you should listen to the main event or watch it as well. Hey, appreciate you joining us here for McCollum on Business here on this Wednesday afternoon show. We go back to our 7 a.m. time frame tomorrow. Of course, here as well. We got the draft show tomorrow night for you sports fans. Don't forget about that. Come and join us for all of our programming. PME Media AZ on YouTube, where you can find it as well. We'll see you over there. Pit Stop coming up today as well. We'll be up by 2 o'clock. Come and join us for that as well on demand. And we'll see you later, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning here, Thursday morning on McCollum on Business.